How are you guys today? Welcome back to another episode of the MonsterCast podcast with me, Mason Paul, and Cameron Miguez. How you doing today this Wednesday, Cam?
I'm good. I want to welcome everybody to the show. Thanks for everybody coming a little bit later tonight. We actually found a guest who has a job, so in the West Coast guy, so we had to go a little later. But before we get to that, Mason, you want to take care of our sponsors there, sir?
Of course, we have our two main sponsors currently. Spur Hot Sauce, the Florida hot sauce slingers. Her hot sauce's own is a local-based business where the Southwest meets the Southeast in a clang of hot and tangy flavors. And our newest one, which is Monster Truckinator TV, the place to go on Facebook for all things new and old monster truck related.
Well, and that Monster Truckinator TV, you got to check it out. I saw today where they're doing a little contest. You have to check out on their Facebook page. They're actually giving away a World Finals 21 truck. So you have to check that out. Kind of different looking.
Too bad no one else could really see it out in person, but it's cool they still, brought something out for all the fans to look at.
Yeah. Well, like I said, our guest this week actually has a job, although he had to come a little later. But West Coast guy, I figured he was big enough that we could postpone this for an hour and a half. So what do you say we bring on Mr. Linsey Weenk there, Mason?
Gotcha.
He broke the rear end. Yeah, he broke the rear end, but he's not giving up.
He's on the throttle now. Wow.
Hang on. How about that?
A little bit more this time, buddy. Oh my. Perfect. Oh my.
Mr. Linsey Weenk.
I like the intro.
Yeah? Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how you kind of forget those memories until you see back clips like that. It's like, I remember that. I remember when I was doing the donuts in Outlaw at the World Finals there. I remember the thing was whipping so hard because it had a broken axle on the inside. It was whipping so hard and slammed into the wall. I thought I was going to be in trouble for that one, but World Finals is kind of one of those all-out green light, do what you got to do, and I remember that one very well.
Well, before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit. How's the Weenk family dealing with quarantine 2020 and getting through all that so far?
I think we're doing pretty good. My wife and kids, they followed the guidelines right to a T when it first came out. And fortunately, with my job, I'm still an essential employee, I guess. I'm out spraying for ag companies here, which I've done for years and years. So once this quarantine hit, not a whole lot changed for me other than traffic was way lighter here in California. So, but nonetheless, the family, they've been locked down pretty tight. We just went camping last weekend, so we're slowly working our way out of quarantine. So I can't complain too much. I feel pretty bad for the people that got it the worst. So I'm definitely grateful that it didn't hit us too hard.
Right. Well, all right. So let's talk monster trucks a little bit. Take us back. I mean, we saw in that clip, everybody that doesn't know, you started out with Don Frankish's team and then went on to Jimmy Cretin and then went on to drive Blue Thunder and Lucas Oil. So take us back a little bit of how that all transpired, of starting with Jurassic Attack and then making the transitions to the different teams.
Yeah, man, it goes right back to January of 2000. I was a hockey player before I started racing, and clearly not making the NHL. And it was almost within that same year, I was like, you know what, this is my last year playing hockey. I was going to move over to start training to be in the RCMP. And that's about the same time my brother had his oldest boy, but he came out really premature. He weighed 1.5 pounds at birth. And he was racing for Don Frankish at the time. And he said, you know what, I'm done with life on the road. This job is yours if you want it. I'll tell Don Frankish right now that there's a driver ready to jump in the seat and go. And that's pretty much how it started. My first time driving was in San Diego at Qualcomm Stadium in front of like 60,000 people. And that's,
debut.
yeah, that's how you learn how to drive. Even I never even drove a semi before that. And there I was rolling down I-15, heading down to San Diego. So it was a quick transition, man, and just haven't looked back since.
Right. So now, how did you make the transition? I mean, 'cause you were with Frankish for what, 4 or 5 years, and then how did you end up in the Cretan camp?
I met Jimmy, and I always respected Jimmy, and his stuff always ran so good. One of the most successful independents out there. Met up with him in like, I think it's Del Mar. We were doing a show with him, and I really wanted to make that transition to like on Jimmy's team because he was on TV, he was on Speed Channel. And that's really where I wanted to be. I wanted to take that next step. So I asked him there if he'd be interested in needing a driver in the future at any time, because I kind of wanted to get my feet wet in that series. And he said, yeah, we'll get you a work visa. And got me a work visa. I moved down there and then started with Iron Outlaw. Man, I had pretty good success right off the bat. I remember we were doing a show in Montreal. And this would have been in like the December before I started in the truck full time there. And I remember Jimmy saying, you know, if you want to make an impression on Monster Jam and get on these Speed Channel shows, go ahead and win this one, because I remember he said all the bigwigs are at home, and there's only one show going on, so this will be a great exposure opportunity if you can go out there and do it. And I went there and I won racing. First time I ever met Dennis Anderson was at that show. He was my third race. And I remember just being so nervous because he was just an icon in the sport. And obviously kind of almost a hero to every driver out there to meet him, let alone run against him. And then I beat him. And it was, like I say, it seemed like after that, the ball was rolling in my favor. And starting in January after that, yeah, we were on the Speed Channel events, and I went on this great winning streak. I think it was 23 or 24 races in a row. And I just racked up some hardware and just made good impressions. And I don't know, I'm super lucky, man. I remember things were going my way. Even if I was having a bad run, it seemed like the guy I was racing against would break or something like that. Just the luck behind it was amazing. But I had a pretty solid truck as well. That thing was a lot of horsepower and quality parts. That thing was a tough beast to beat.
Well, we actually talking about that. We have a new segment on this show, and it's with Christopher Allen, and it's Christopher Allen's Fun Facts of the Week, and he's got one about you, Mason. Let's play that and fact check Mr. Weenk a little bit.
Hi, Monster Truck fans. I'm Christopher Allen here, aka the Monster Truck Guru, with today's Monster Truck Fact of the Week. In 2006, Linsey Weenk was driving Iron Outlaw for Jimmy Cretan, and in that year's Monster Jam winter season, Linsey won a whopping 20 consecutive rounds of racing, including the final Monster Jam racing competition inside the legendary Pontiac Silverdome. This has been Christopher Allen with your Monster Truck Fact of the Week. If you want to check out plenty of great Monster Truck show coverage from all throughout the West Coast, check out Monster Truckin' with Jim and Chris on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, and Monster Trucks forever!
Well, so you said 23, 24. He says 20. I'm going to believe him over you.
I'm going to believe him as well. It's kind of like fishing. Fishing stories. The fish get bigger every time you talk about it. But that was a fun streak. And that show at the Silverdome, that was a packed house. and that was cool. That was fun. Heads up racing. Dennis went in the dumpster there right in front of me on just one of his crashes. I mean, that was a cool event. We did autographs after that show until 3 or 4 in the morning. It was insane. And we just, I remember it was Kohler, I think. The longer the night got, right? Like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, everyone's dead tired. And Kohler had more and more energy as time went on. It was just typical Kohler, right? He was fired up by 3 o'clock, and the rest of us were dead tired and gone through about 10 Sharpies each. It was a long night, but yeah, one of my favorite memories was definitely at the Silverdome.
Well, he was probably about 46 Mountain Dews in by that point, so
Yeah.
he was wound up. Well, back when you worked for Outlaw is actually when I first started with the team, and one of my favorite stories to share, and I doubt you can remember this, but Jim and my brother were actually over in Israel, and the trucks came out of Canada with a blown motor, and I had to come in the shop, and it's kind of the first major thing I ever did was come in the shop, and I helped you change the motor in Bounty before you headed to San Diego. Like I said, you probably don't even remember that, do you?
I do remember that. I remember meeting you for the first time. I remember under pressure, and I'm not sure if I was that nice a person because that was a hell of a position to get put into, right? Changing the motor on a monster truck and then heading out to San Diego and making sure everything runs on my watch. And,
yeah.
Those aren't your everyday motors. Those are some high horsepower machines. But yeah,
well,
that was a unique condition there. And like I say, meeting under pressure like that, I hope I didn't come across like a big jerk.
The funniest part I remember is, everybody talks about getting into the business and learning all this stuff, and everybody comes in thinking they know something. And I just remember a cart covered in nuts and bolts, and you would tell me, get the bolts for this. Okay, what do those look like? No idea what I was doing. I guarantee I was really no help at all.
No,
but it was fun to hear.
I think any help is good help, and I definitely needed help to get through that stuff. And I'm glad. That's a good story. I did kind of forget how we initially crossed paths, but some of that stuff just seems like a blur now until someone brings it up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad you got.
So now later that year is when you made the transition to Blue Thunder. So talk about that a little bit and how you ended up in a big sponsored truck at that point.
I guess, looking back now, obviously my success in Outlaw was obviously getting attention from obviously sponsors like Ford. So I guess when I ended my run on Outlaw, they picked me up right away. Running with an independent team, I don't think most people know how much work it is. It's, that show, that year I think we did 47 shows or 46 shows out of 52 weeks. We're on the road for 46. And we're doing shows on Wednesdays as we're going through different towns for the weekend show. And it was just so much work. Your hands, if you ever get a cut in your hand or something like that, I always remember you'd never have a chance to heal because they're either covered in brake clean or gear oil or on a wrench. And it was pretty exhausting to the point where I was, I was just ready for something else, just not so much intense work, because the fun part was starting to leave a little bit. When you get to, I always thought when you're driving through these towns and cities and you look out your window and you see people in their backyard barbecuing or their kids jumping on the trampoline and you're like, not me, I'm go, go, go. So that was my chance to transition. I didn't know Ford was going to pick me up that quick. I mean, I was really fortunate, and I got to transition into that fly-in driver status that, I love. Just flying in, doing the show, and flying home. I had no interest in working on trucks anymore or working on motors and driving to different cities, in the middle of the night, trying to make these shows. I was just over it. And so the transition to Blue Thunder was perfect timing in my life. And I'm glad I did.
So going into a big sponsor truck, how much more was there more pressure? All of a sudden now you have Ford, one of the largest companies in the country, all of a sudden backing you and eyes on you, performing, doing what you normally do. But how much more pressure was you trying to carry that huge sponsor?
Especially with Ford, it was what's the word? I guess I felt blessed to run that truck, right? So yeah, there was pressure there, but I also knew I had the skills to go out there and perform in it. But even when I was with Jimmy, we had Checker Shucks Craig and Auto Parts, and
Right.
Jimmy was really big on making sure we do a good job representing them. So I already had my training in the sponsor world with that. Obviously, once I was with Ford, I had Tony Farrell as a teammate. So between the two of us, I felt if one couldn't do it well, the other one could. So that was kind of nice having him almost show me how to do it. And I did a lot of, watching and learning from other drivers, like Damon Bradshaw with Monster Energy, man. He was watching him do his thing was how I learned. And I always respected him for that. He could go, that's how he keeps his sponsors. He does a great job, whether he's in the truck or on the mic. He represents them 100%. So that's what I wanted to do. And I picked up with it with Ford, and it was a lot of fun running Blue Thunder. It was fun doing like Detroit, right? Because all their bigwigs were there. I thought that was pretty cool. And I had good luck in that town with that truck. We do things with Ford, like with Toby Keith. He's sponsored by Ford. So we got to unveil the 09 F-150 together. I love doing stuff like that. Just little side gigs that normally people don't get to do if you're, in a we'll say regular truck, but an unsponsored truck doesn't always get those opportunities. So a lot of cool things came my way once I jumped in that seat. And that was probably, like I said, that truck was pretty sweet to run too. It was a good horsepower machine, big sponsor behind you, and it made it fun.
Well, now talking about doing hometown sponsor stuff, so now you get to continue to do that whenever you're in Indianapolis and you're in Lucas Oil Stadium. So talk about how is that similar feeling, or is that two completely different animals? Or
they're a lot alike. Obviously, when you're on a corporate sponsor, you're up there representing them at all times. Lucas Oil is a little bit different in the fact that my bosses never changed. With Ford, it seemed like every year we had a new manager, right? Someone we answer to or talk to or wanted to, have them at their shows. And with Lucas Oil, it never changes. Forrest Lucas he's the owner, and he comes to events, and I know exactly where I stand with them, and that takes a lot of pressure off you right there. But yeah, going into Indianapolis, that's a trip because seems like everyone's already got your back once you get there. So I like doing Indy. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of pressure, but I've had awesome success in that truck at that stadium. So yeah, Lucas they're a cool group to work with. I don't have to buy oil for my own pickup. I mean, all the perks there is insane. So yeah, going up there and running their truck and bragging about them, that comes pretty easy to me.
Well, so now we've talked about all the good things. So now I have to talk about the bad a little bit. The World Finals. I would have picked you 10 different years to go in there and win racing or freestyle. And for whatever reason, it's eluded you. What do you think's behind it? Is it just always just that little bit short of just not walking home with a trophy yet?
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say. And that almost gets in your head now, hearing the people say, well, I had you pegged for it this year. You've been in it so long, and it kind of feels like that monkey on my back for sure. And I always look at, like, even in Vegas, I would go there and just blow drive shafts like crazy. Like the truck just didn't want to work with me at the World Finals. And it was frustrating because it could roll along all year long and do great. And once I got there, just, I get to hiccup and then it get in my head. I just couldn't get the results I wanted. The only thing I can say that I have been satisfied with in regards to World Finals would have to be just my, the success. Even though it's not trophies, solid finishes, going rounds and racing, but more importantly, probably freestyle. I've had quality numbers and quality scores there for years, so I can take that away. But yeah, not having the hardware that says World Finals Champion on it, that weighs on my mind. But that's competition, man. You can't win them all, and sometimes the one you want to get, you might not ever get. But you got to be happy with how you've done so far, and I'm happy. But I do want that trophy, and there's still time.
Well,
I'm not saying never, but for sure.
I can definitely think of at least one, if not two, freestyles that I think you probably should have got it. I've seen you lay down some runs out there that didn't compare. But like you said, it's hard. That's the hard part, especially when they up the field to 32 trucks, because it became no more of one hit, one amazing move, and a minute and a half of everything else. It was 2 minutes of spectacular from start to finish. You had to do in order to beat that field of nothing but the best.
Yeah, you have to have every combination going your way too. The truck's got to last for 2 minutes of punishment. You're going to need those factors of crashing and then saving it. You're going to need that big air moment. And now more than anything, you got to land that backflip, if not 1, 2, and your sequence has to be perfect. Your timing's got to be perfect, so you got to leave the crowd on a high, and that's when you're going to get your high scores versus showing them too much too early and they forget what you did in the first part. So it's a balancing act. And for the people that have won it, I'm definitely a little bit jealous because that's what they've done. They balanced it right. They took their chances when they needed to take them, saved their truck when they could, and then finished strong. And man, that's a World Finals champion right there. And it's the technique to it, man. It's half the battle for sure.
Well, do you at least feel, because you've done, 13, 14 of them now. Do you at least feel a little easier going into it, though? You've been there, you've done it, you know what it's like. Now it's just a matter of getting it done. So has it gotten easier over the years, or because you haven't got that win, is it a little more pressure?
Yeah, I would say it's more pressure. I kind of tell myself I've been there almost as much as any other driver there, more than most of them. And I tell myself it shouldn't be that bad and I shouldn't be that stressed about it. But no, there's probably more anxiety and more stress going into that show, knowing that I should have already got the monkey off my back. So that's what the World Finals is all about, though. Everyone's there with their A game, and everyone wants that trophy too. And you don't think about, well, I'll get them next weekend. No, that's your Daytona 500. That's your Super Bowl. You're there just to win that one. If you haven't won anything all year, if you won that World Finals, then you'd feel pretty good about your year. So it's definitely it's a mind game, especially when you're alone in that truck by yourself. It's a mind game, but rising to the occasion is all part of it, right?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things we like to do on here too is we like to interact with people watching, have them come in, ask you questions and comment. So does anything come in there, Mr. Mason?
Actually, there's quite a bit. We have his crew chief that just tuned in, Darren, and a bunch of people. So I'll kind of go through these. I'll pace through them as well as I can. We have one from Dean Sanger, and his question to you is, how long do you plan on driving for Monster Jam, and are you ready to retire yet?
That's an awesome question. All this quarantine stuff and, no trucks are moving. It's definitely an eye-opener that, it could be the end. We don't know when anything's going to turn on again, but just being out of the truck this long, I always wondered how it would feel to be out of the truck. And we all got our taste of it, and I don't like it. I definitely want to get back in. I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. And if I had any thoughts about it before, I've definitely changed them. Like the adrenaline rush in the truck, the fans, the travel. I love getting on a plane. I love air travel. I love getting to new cities. So yeah, no plans to retire anytime soon. Plus, I got to get my hands on a World Finals trophy. So no quitting yet.
I'm just the opposite. I can't wait to retire.
I'm good for a bit.
Okay. We have another one from Dawn Cretan, and her question to you is, to your recollection, do you ever recall JC ever raising his voice?
Yeah, I could say there's a lot of voice raising there. I was thinking of a memory the other day. We were in Tacoma, and he was already out with I think he had a motor issue. He was done for the night, so he was in my year. He was my crew guy, and I thought, well, this should be cool. You know, you got a seasoned veteran with a great race record and talent in my year helping. And I just finished beating the truck relatively easy. And I thought, boy, man, he's going to be so proud of me when I get back there. I can't wait for him to come up with the truck and say good job. And he was so mad that I didn't win by more truck lengths than I did. And his exact words were, "Are you out there for a Sunday drive or something?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he just went off on how he expected way more out of me. I was like, wow, that's how you stay humble, I guess.
When Two Extreme Racing goes up for sale, the Jim Cretin Motivational Speaking Tour will begin.
Yes, absolutely. Get your tickets now.
To segue into an even better question off of that, another one from Ding Sanger is your best memory running with Two Extreme.
Man, that's hard to pinpoint because not only were the big shows fun, but I really like doing the fairs, with Jimmy, because he kind of loosened up at those. He wasn't wound so tight. So we had a lot of fun doing like Del Mar fairs, and I got the wheelie record in Outlaw. I forget what year it was, but it was like, well, we'd have to ask Chris Allen how many feet it was, but it's probably setting the wheelie record in there in Outlaw. That was probably one of my favorite memories.
At the Pomona Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw some people. They were actually talking about that a while back, and
Right.
Nobody knows if it's official, but I don't think it's been beat. There's not a lot of places you can go to beat it.
No, that's exactly. You run out of room anywhere else, but Pomona had a nice setup, and I know we were going to go after it there. The first time I did it was in Jurassic Attack, and they had it actually all set up for Bigfoot to get this world wheelie record. And I think it was Dan Rente, and every time he'd go for the slap wheelie, he was so excited to get it going, he'd just drive his wheelie bar right in the dirt and ruined his wheelie. And I was out there, and Jurassic Attack had a 3-speed transmission. So once you get up there, first, second gear, and the front end starts to go down, you can grab third and floor it and just make the distance right there. I think that was like 50 or 60 feet shorter than my Iron Outlaw one.
Wow. What else you got, bud?
Question from Kurt Nagy going back on the World Finals talk we had earlier. Which World Finals do you prefer, Vegas or Orlando?
That's a good question. I like Vegas. I had great memories. It was a cool venue where, you had all that room, and it was really conducive to having those big old parties out there, those pit parties. Orlando's cool with how we're running, up in that stadium. When you stop, starting up in that starting lane, you can't see anything. The hood of your truck, you're looking straight out. And so once you gas it, that truck goes straight down, and you can't catch up on the shifter, man. You're flying down there so quick. It's intimidating at first, but definitely unique. Orlando's a cool place to have it. They did, a nice job in the setup, trying to make it unique and different, which it is. But I like them both, man. They've both been good to me. So we'll see what happens next year. I'm sure they'll be back in Orlando. I think they got a pretty good deal there, and just got to build on it and work out some kinks.
Right. Following up with that, we actually have one from Joshua Yoko. Pretty sure you know him. His question is, what's your favorite chassis? And to follow it up, he was saying that 2020 was going to be your guys' year.
Yeah, Josh he's a hardworking crew guy. Can't say enough good things about him. Works so hard in that truck, and really, when you go out and win, you win for guys like that. You want him to see his hard work pay off, because the crew guys, that's all the limelight they really get out of it. So you want to go out there and win that trophy for them and show them that all their hard work paid off. As far as favorite chassis, the one I have right now, I think is probably the best fit I've got. The one I had for about a year before I wrecked it in St. Louis, it was a pretty good running machine. I kind of missed that one, but I bent it all up, and it's in the bush somewhere now. But the new one's pretty solid. Can't complain.
Well, I know we had Tristan England on last week, and apparently at one point he borrowed your chassis, and him and Yoho got into kind of an argument on here a little bit about which chassis was better, the one they borrowed from you or the one he was driving, and I think Yoho won.
You can't lose. You can't win an argument with Yoho. He always wins. I don't even try. What he says goes. Wish my driver that way when I talk. Yeah. No, Josh, you're a good dude. Thanks for all you do in the truck, and hopefully we'll be getting to see each other real soon.
One from Daniel Smith, and his question is, what was your reaction after the near triple consecutive in Indianapolis this year?
Yeah, about that. Well,
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, no, it was. I was on the throttle at the wrong time, but when the truck's still going, you just keep hitting that throttle. As the timing was pretty good for what the end result was. I don't know if that was that smart running into dumpsters like that, but I was dealing with an injured leg at the time, and all I couldn't wait was for that truck to be stopped. It was pretty painful freestyle, that one, so I was not too sad when the truck was upside down. That's for sure.
Apparently, I might have to go back and YouTube this one.
Yeah,
it
was a fun run. But like I said, I had a injured leg and an injured ankle at the time, so I wasn't. It was a fun run, but I was happy.
Was that no hockey flare up?
No, I got. We had a little accident before the show. I was just walking across the crosswalk, and a guy wasn't paying attention and hit me at about 20 miles per hour, we figure.
Oh, so, you know what? I did hear about that.
Yeah, it was a little bit rough. But I don't know if he was, if he was texting or driving or whatever. But nonetheless, accidents happen. I was only probably on crutches for about 3 weeks, wearing that big hot boot that you have to wear when you break bones. It's kind of uncomfortable, but that right after that is when kind of like when the quarantine started, like early March. So it was kind of a blessing, I guess, that the healing could do its thing, because I was more than anxious to get back in the truck right away. Doctors weren't that big on that idea, so I guess once the shows got canceled, then I could. It was a good time to heal and make sure I was 100% before getting back in.
Sounds like somebody was a Gravedigger fan.
Maybe.
Following up with, about talking about your ankle, we have one from Kirk Nagy. There's multiple questions, but they were saying, not sure if you remember me from Indianapolis. I was the guy that called 911, and he was wondering how your ankle's doing now.
It's all healed, buddy. It's once I got hit there, man, there was people screaming, and obviously it knocked me probably, let's say 10 or 15 feet ahead and to the side. So I was like, my bleeding, I was like checking for blood. I was like, okay, everything's right here. And then when I went to get up, I could tell that my leg was the only part injured. I didn't hit my head or nothing like that. So it's just the ankle. But yeah, he was there. It was autographs were in about an hour and a half. So there was already people who knew who I was. And there I was laying on the ground. It was a little bit embarrassing for sure. One guy asked for a picture once I got stood up. So I did that and then got to the stadium and business as usual.
That's awesome. Hey, while you're laying there, can you roll over and smile?
Yeah. Smile. Yeah. But that's our fans, right? We do it for our fans, whether you're in the stadium or laying on the road with a broken leg. You give it all. Good, bad, or injured. That's right. That's right.
We have one from Nick Miguez, and his question is, your favorite truck you've driven?
That's a tough one. Lots of good memories in all of them. But I would have to say probably the one I'm in now, the Crusader. It's just it's a fun sponsor to have. What's really fun is these Lucas people when they come to shows, they're really excited. They're like kids. they love their athletes. They love their sponsorship opportunities with, no matter it's with us, PBR, whatever sport they're involved in, they're just all in and they're excited about it. So it makes it so much more fun just to, heading up to that booth to see them after the show, and they're happy to see you, like you're part of the family. Is probably the best part of it. So you kind of feel lucky and a little spoiled that way. I've had a sponsored ride since like 2006 when I started with the Jimmy. So I've been pretty lucky to keep that little sponsor streak alive.
Well, and it's cool when you do get to deal with the sponsor and they treat you as you're there for them. They're not there for you, or however, I guess I worded that wrong, but to where they're serving you, you're not serving them, I guess, to an extent.
Right.
It's kind of cool to see that where they're so appreciative of what you're doing, and you're like, well, you're the one flipping the bill.
Yeah, they love carnage too. Like they want to see that truck destroyed every show. They just get off on that. And I think that's probably why you have fans in Monster Jam. That's what they want to see too. And the sponsors right there behind you saying, yeah, tear that thing up, do what you got to do. Just keep the fans entertained and stay safe.
What else you got there, buddy?
Actually, I was going to a few questions from multiple people. Even Dean Sanger responded to this one again. Have you ever wanted to build your own monster truck? And if I scroll up here, their question to you would be, what would you want to name it?
I'd never want to build my own truck. I don't want to own one. I see what we do in parts, and it makes me a little ill sometimes to think of what this stuff costs just to operate, let alone not doing any, doing damage to the truck, but just the maintenance costs of running up and down the road and having spare parts in the trailer. And I definitely have a lot of respect for independents that can go out there and do it well, because it's such an expensive sport. But for me, I don't want that. I don't want that pressure of maintaining a business like that. I like coming in, driving the truck, having it look shiny the next week and when I come back.
Spending somebody else's money.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That is one thing people don't realize. It is nothing to spend $2,000 and $3,000 in a week, and that's not even opening a trailer door. That's right. Just getting from place to place, and sometimes more than that, $5,000-$6,000 to get all the parts you need to replace the stuff you broke last week to make sure you have spares in the trailer before you get to the next show. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And then you got fuel, you got tires blowing out. Every little thing you got is it's on you. So it's not something I don't think I'd ever entertain. I'm good where I'm at.
We actually have something from Chris Allen we were trying to get answered earlier about your wheelie, and he answered us with 602 feet at the Pomona, California Fairplex. And his question to you is, actually, this is from Jim Allen. Do you have a favorite memory running at the Firebird Raceway in Phoenix?
Yeah, I do. We had when I was with Jimmy running Iron Outlaw, we wanted to do wheelies up and down that thing. So what we did, I think we cinched down the front in mine almost to like maybe 3 inches. We had the shocks just hurting, but we had to just shrugged right down to see if it would bounce. And it bounced and it bounced and it bounced. As soon as I get into a wheelie, I let it go and pop just up, the same height. So I just whap, all the way down. It's hurt like heck because that was before we had Hans devices. You're just wearing your old neck collar there that's about that thin. Look good. So those were the painful neck days for sure.
Well, speaking of wheelies, I can think back before I was with the team and I was watching you guys on TV, and I can remember the old 2 Extreme Power wheelies. When you and Jim would roll out there, coming to a dead stop and hammer it and put it to the wheelie bar. Yeah. And nobody else was doing that at the time.
No, I remember the first time I drove, because they're just massive power plants in those trucks. I remember the first time I drove one of his trucks. It just sunk me in the seat so hard. I just was so amazed at the power they made. It would just put you in the back of your seat, and it was a ton of fun to drive like that. But those are, he's got a lot of work of those things, and they're pretty high maintenance and all that good stuff. But they're making power for sure.
Yeah, they're a lot of work.
Yeah, you know.
Done it once or twice.
Yeah.
You've been around.
Yeah.
We have one from Mackenzie Ray, and the question is, what is your favorite memory with Tony Farrell?
Tony Farrell, he's a good dude. Like I say, lots of times when you have two guys on the same team or both driving the same truck, well, we both want that spotlight. We both want the World Finals. We both want every big show. And one of the things about Tony is he was never like never felt like he was competing with me. Like he was just a teammate, and he was happy that I was in the World Finals over him. Like he was the kind of guy that never made you feel bad for the position you're in. And I thought that was pretty cool because that's not easy. They're letting someone else drive your truck like that.
You know, Tony Farrell was such a nice guy. I fortunately got to meet him at a couple, actually my first show I ever did, and I was with Jim and Craig Christensen, and you know, Tony Farrell walks up in the pits and he's talking to me like I'm somebody, and I always thought that was just really cool of him. If he didn't care who you were back there, he was talking to you and just treating you like you matter. Yeah,
he was a class act all the way. I liked running with him. I learned a lot from him, like I said before, with handling sponsors and how he talks. Even in his interviews, he was entertaining to watch, and that's huge because he's too many times you get bored with what drivers are saying, but when Tony talked, it was usually entertaining, and that was the key to his success for sure.
Absolutely.
Going back to talking about a few your old teammates, we have one from Darren Miguez, and he's commented in saying cute bedroom furniture.
Yeah, I confiscated my daughter's bedroom because my wife's doing realty stuff out there, and I was like, well, I don't know how long this is going to go, so I told Charlie, I'm going to borrow your room. You can borrow mine, and she's like, all right. So, yeah, it's my collection of bows there's pretty decent. I don't want to brag, but I'd say it's pretty decent.
Well, before we go any farther, while we've got Darren on here, and I know he's on here and he can chime in on this, we always like to talk about road stories and stuff that happened. So let's go back to some city in Canada, and you and Darren were on the road, and another driver named Jay McPherson was flying in, and you two were kind of tired of a fly-in driver. So you guys decided to have some fun with the duct tape in a hotel room. Well, please tell this story.
Yeah, that was a fun little thing we did. We thought we were pretty funny because we got the key for his room, and we didn't destroy it so much, but we knew he was flying in late, so we wanted to make sure it wasn't that much fun for him when he got there. We had his mattresses flipped against the wall. I think we had the TV in the bathroom, pretty much whatever we could. Then we duct taped everything, just wrapped it up. The remote was wrapped up. I remember like that sheet that goes, over the bathtub, so the water can't get. We had that completely taped top to bottom, duct tape everywhere. And then we thought we were so smart, we were gonna get a string of duct tape, and so when you close the door, we could pull it, and it pulled the latch over, so he couldn't even get in the room, which was really dumb because when Jay got to the hotel, he just said, "This room's locked," and they gave him a key for another room. And Darren and I were so bummed because we were waiting for him the next day to be like, "Oh, you know what? You jerks, you wrecked my room. It took me forever." But he's like, "Nah, room's fine. First room I went to was locked, so this gave me another room." And Darren like, "Oh man." And then I think him and I went in there and took all the duct tape off because we knew they'd have a big old fee if they saw the stuff we kind of destroyed a little. So we didn't want Jimmy, freaking out on us. So we just went ahead and cleaned up our mess, and it wasn't nearly as fun taking it all down. That's for sure. But,
good times.
Life on the road.
We have one from Daniel Smith again, and he was questioning, do you remember the crash at West Lebanon in Blue Thunder in 2009 and 2010 when you broke the entire rear end after the jammer hit? And what was your favorite memory in West Lebanon?
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. It was, I remember that hit. I was just like a good sky wheelie, and it's just just the landing was just in all the wrong places, I guess. It just that certain weak spot. I think it broke the limit strap straight off the back, and then the back end was gone after that. Yeah, it was. I remember that. I remember feeling bad for the crew guys because they worked pretty hard at that show, and that's a pretty good parts thrashing show. And to go ahead and put my guys through more struggles like that, I felt bad. Favorite West Leb memory? I mean, they're all kind of fun. I mean, what's cool about that show is there's a little more freedom there, you know? So I remember for intros, Adam and I would get together and be like, hey, what do we want to do for intros? Because we're like the first 2 trucks out. So we do this thing where we go flying down the straightaway and then go into sliding donuts on that one end. It was pretty cool, a lot of fun. When you have guys like that, you get to work with like Adam, who's just wants to have fun out there. It makes it fun for yourself and changes it up from our typical routine.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here. We have one from Alan Manriquez, and his question was, obviously, any World Finals championship would be nice, but which do you want more? The main two, the racing or the freestyle championship?
Well, I guess I've always considered myself more of a racer. So winning that one was something I've always been chasing. Freestyle is a lot of fun, though, once you get in that zone and things are going your way. Probably freestyle. I'd have to say freestyle, just because I think that's the most coveted title there is to be a freestyle champion. So I would definitely go for freestyle, but I would take any at this point. That's for sure.
Get one from Daniel Cheech Agosh, and he said he had a great season in 2016 with you, and he was also wondering how was the 2016 season?
2016 was good. 2017 was better. Dan Cheech, he's a good dude. He would every city he'd go buy himself a hat, right? And he'd buy these flat bill hats, and they're like the expensive ones. And I remember we're in Calgary. He bought me a Flames one. I thought that's pretty cool for someone like that to spend his hard-earned money and buy me something just because he knows I'd like it. It's sometimes those little things like that make you appreciate guys like Daniel, just always thinking about somebody else. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Cheech is a great guy. Now, granted, I bought you drinks over the years, so I mean, come on, that's got to count for something.
You're a good guy too. I'm not taking that away from you. You're a good dude. For sure.
Well, another question we always kind of ask everybody is kind of a fan actually started it a while back. We've kind of adopted it as one of ours. But if you were to leave Feld today, God forbid you leave Feld today, and you had the opportunity to go back and drive any independent truck or any truck, doesn't have to be independent, but any truck from past or present that you got to represent that name, what is one you've always kind of wanted to drive? You always thought it'd be a cool name to drive.
There's always trucks out there like I always wanted to drive like a Bigfoot truck. I thought would be neat just because that's the name was so huge back in the 80s, and he was the man. I always thought it'd be neat to be in one of those trucks. A lot of respect for that operation. Those big Ford motors were pretty cool. That's when I was at Jurassic Attack, we had a Ford motor, and they're definitely a lot more work to keep running, finding parts for them and stuff like that was always difficult. So I always respected the Bigfoot team for having pretty clean setups. So it'd probably be like a Foot or something like that. Or even, what was that other one? Barefoot. I always thought that was a cool truck too. I always like running with them, and they have those big old Hemis that made a lot of power. It'd be fun to run one of those.
Well, it's kind of neat because a team actually runs that truck still, the Phelps, Michael and Sheila. And it's pretty cool. Last year, they actually brought back the old blue Chevy body with the red and yellow stripe. And so it looks pretty cool kind of seeing it, the old color from way back in the day.
Right.
Letting my geek show.
There you go. Nerd.
Yeah.
As we go ahead and come on to the last 10 minutes or so here, I'm seeing a bunch of comments, so I'm trying to at least pick out the best few so I can get, these ones that were answered a few times. And one from Dean Center again. Not sure if, maybe one of us already know him, but his question is best advice for someone coming up in the industry with too extreme as a driver. Sure, Tyler commenting, but either way.
Well, you're going to learn a lot. I'll put it that way. Jimmy was he was a good teacher, though. I mean, he demanded perfection, and I do think he probably got the best out of me by pushing me as hard as he did. And that probably, I got to say that's probably where I got in good with, like, the Ford, running their trucks, and even with Lucas Oil, I had someone like Jimmy as a young person who kind of molded me and trained me and pushed me harder than I've ever been pushed in a truck before. And I think that's probably why I ended up where I did. So lots of respect for him. Heck of a driver. He's a good dude.
And Tyler, to answer that question, don't piss off the crew guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of a dick. He's kind of a dick.
We have Levi Schoen with his favorite question he likes to ask everybody, and his question is Hooters or JT Schmitz?
Let's see. What's JT Schmitz?
Right across the street from Aries in Anaheim, California.
Oh, that one. Yeah. JT's. That's a good place. Yeah. We've eaten there a lot. JT Schmitz.
And Hooters right on the other side of the highway in Anaheim across from the Aries, too.
Well, you know where all those are, huh?
God, I've only done Anaheim like 74 times, so yeah, I know where the restaurants are in that place.
Yeah, that's good.
Last question from Daniel Smith that he was sending was, last question for me. What was that camper hit in 2008 in Orlando like? Was it an insanely scary hit to watch?
Yeah, that was scary. I remember the truck going up the ramp, and everything was perfect. I was like, oh, this should be so cool. And as soon as I hit that ramp or that RV, I felt the front tires climb that RV instead of punching right through. And that free fall from up there, that was crazy. It didn't seem like it was ever going to come down. And I could tell it was going to come down on the back, frame right to the ground. Landed so hard, it blew off the fire extinguisher. So it filled the cab right away. And that fire extinguisher stuff, that sucks all the oxygen out. So I couldn't breathe. Covered in white powder, not really sure what was going on. When you take a hit that hard, it rings your bell. But that was the last time they put an RV on top of a hill. I remember that was it after that, which I was okay with.
Yeah, people don't realize there's no shocks on the frame in the back.
That's right.
And also looking back at a few of the scary crashes you had in your career, I'm not sure if there's any footage of it, and I have it hidden here somewhere. But it was back in 2014 in Qualcomm Stadium when you were racing against Damon Bradshaw. It was like the finals. I was sitting up in the front with the family, and you were right on our end. You went right over the case, and you sort of just cartwheeled into a dumpster. That one was probably the scariest for me watching in the Qualcomm area before they moved to Petco.
That was one of those things because you're racing your buddy, and you don't care what happens after the finish line. It's just you're doing everything you can to get to that finish line first. I remember I was wide open, hitting that ramp a little crossed up. And when you hit a little crossed up, once you hit that ramp and you're in the air, the truck's doing its own thing. It's probably getting more twisted and more twisted. So when it landed, it was gone the other way and literally just along for the ride. And I'm glad that, it didn't do any more damage than it did. It climbed the dumpster a little bit and landed on the other side. And I don't think it even touched the building. I just laid there between the dumpster and the wall. I think the only thing that was sacrificed there was the dumpster, and a little bit of my roll cage was beat up.
Got just a couple more minutes. We'll let him get back to the family.
Yep. It's getting down to the last two recent ones put up. One from Daniel Cheech Agosh again. Question is, my last question is not even about monster trucks. What keeps you not bored driving those sprayers?
What keeps you not bored? Well, I don't know if you've ever ran a sprayer, but it's not too exciting. But when I first moved to California, I wanted to find a job that kind of reminded me of home. So being from a farm up in Saskatchewan, I had plenty of time on machinery. So when I moved to Cali, I was fortunate enough to find a job where I'm still back on farm machinery. So, and especially when you have auto steer and all the nice features in these new machines, it's pretty easy to get bored when you can just sit there and twiddle your thumbs going down the field. But it's a job, got to pay the bills, right?
So a blind guy can drive one of those.
Yes, you can.
Oh yeah.
Although the boom, it's
The
about
boom.
100 feet wide, and you can't hit power poles, so I don't know if it'd be suggested unless you got good eyesight.
I'll be fine.
All right. And our last question from Mackenzie Ray. The question is, Tom Mentz always claims that Indy is his house. But with you driving Lucas Oil, would you say that Indy is actually your house?
You know, I got a lot of respect for Tom. He's a legend. He's a big part of why the sport is where it is. So I think I could share the house with Tom, because whenever he goes there, he doesn't disappoint, and he doesn't live too far down the road. So I don't mind co-sharing that with Tom, for sure.
Well, I definitely don't know any years that you did anything or what year you did what, but I do remember a fishing contest on the lake with you and Jay McPherson and me and my brother one year in the Jim's boats on Jim's Pond.
Yep.
But I don't remember what year that was either. But, man, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast. Definitely have you on in the future. We get things back up and going, and hopefully we will see you at a show and down the road and performing once again sooner than later.
Yeah, I think, you know, hockey's firing up their season again, you know. So we're seeing sports starting to come back. And I think once we see a little bit of a trend of how they do it and the best way to do it so it comes back safe, I don't think we'll be too much further behind that, I wouldn't guess. We're all anxious to get back at it, get that adrenaline going. But thanks for having me on. It's been nice to roll down memory lane for a little while. It's kind of cool when people bring up old memories that I guess I've kind of deleted from my head or forgot about. So it's kind of nice to bring those back and talk about them. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, like I said, hopefully we'll see you soon, and when we'll let your daughter have her room back so we don't get in trouble.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right. Sorry to those who sent in questions. We couldn't get all of them answered. I was trying to get as many of them brought up and in here today, but even looking at the list here, there's a few I still skipped over, but it was great overall. I'd like to thank everybody here for watching, and of course our sponsors again, the Florida Hot Sauce Slingers Spur Hot Sauce. Their Florida-owned sauce is a local-based business where Southwest meets the Southeast in a clash of hot and tangy flavors. Next time when you want to spice up your next meal, think of Spur Hot Sauce. Give them a like on Facebook and Instagram and tell them Monster Cat sent you. Also, we'd like to thank Monster Truckinator TV, the place to go on Facebook for all things new and old Monster Truck related. Any last closing words for you, Cam?
Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for everybody staying late. Big shout out to Christopher Allen, who will be on every episode. We will have a clip with him doing the Christopher's Fact of the Week. Thank Jim and Carol for helping out with that. Do you have their Facebook, Mason? It's Chris and Jim Monster Truck, or I don't want to screw it up.
It's Monster Trucking with Jim and Chris, and I will link it at the bottom of this podcast when we're here shortly.
Yeah, so make sure you follow them. They're an amazing family, and Chris truly is a guru. That guy can fact check anybody in this business. Also, like we said earlier, check out Monster Truckinator. We're his little contest for the World Finals 21 toy. And join us Sunday. We'll be back at our regular time at 7 p.m. Central with the legendary Hall of Famer Dan Patrick. This is one I am truly excited about. There ought to be some really cool stories. So once again, thanks everybody for watching. Mason, thanks for being you. And we'll see you guys Sunday.